Creating a new broadcast. I guess we're live. Good evening, and I'm going to take a little time to set up and send a link to different social media sites. And there's a lot on the screen, and I don't know if you can read it on your phones, those that tune in. It's probably pretty small for that. But got a lot to talk about, so I'll leave it at that. Let's see.
Do you have all of your tabs closed that would be using the internet?
That's what I just did, closed them all, yeah. Turn my speaker off. And then I have to open up the one for YouTube, though. I don't know if I can, well, see, I need to check it sometimes. Right?
I just noticed it was like buffering. It seems like the signal might not be that great.
Yeah, it is slow to load. We did have that problem yesterday. Was it yesterday?
We haven't
We
tried
came home and it was
But yeah,
slow.
it's buffering again now.
Yeah. Maybe I should open up a new session on YouTube because that one took so long to load. I think that, I don't know. Guess it's
I think
alright.
it's buffering again. I think maybe the best thing would
It's
just
faster
be,
though this time.
But look, on my phone, it's not like it was just circling around it. See, it's doing it again.
Right.
So that means you're not. So I think if you have too much open, it's not gonna.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll close
I
everything.
don't know that. I'm probably wrong.
No, I hear you.
I don't think the only other thing we have connected to the internet is the TV.
Right.
Our phones aren't connected to it. I don't know how to get the signal better. I can try to put it on the other side of the curtain.
Yeah, I see. My video looks like from outer space, right?
As long as like your voice and what you're saying is coming.
Yeah.
Like everything else on the screen seems okay, but
Old School Dave's here and Daniel Mills. Hello. Good evening. It appears the government knows what these drones are, but isn't saying. Old School Dave, at least the sound's clear. At least the sound's clear. Thank you for that, Old School Dave, because, we've got terrible video, but you got 2 bars there? Yeah, 2 bars is not too good for us. We can get by on 3 usually. So meanwhile, I'm just advertising on my Facebook page and my Twitter X page. It's slow as the dickens. Okay, that came up all right.
Okay, I moved it closer to the window and it says 3 bars now. So just leave it there. Hopefully that will improve it.
Okay. Looks like I'm advertised on Twitter. Get rid of that. I'll open up. Facebook. Oh, thanks for the water. And okay, advertised on Sawyer, Heaven's Gate,
Facebook?
Facebook. I mean, yeah, Sawyer, Heaven's Gate on Facebook. Okay, so should I like help it by disconnecting my YouTube channel because I don't need it to be showing anything to me?
You need your chat, that's it, right?
Yeah, as long as I have the chat. But then I don't think the chat will stay up, will it?
I don't know. I moved it and it said we had 3 bars, so.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll start off within the chat. And although I do want to keep this up so I can see if it's as long as it's broadcasting. Just tell me when it pauses sometimes. Anyway, so yes, Daniel, I know what you're saying. Right.
Where's your mouse pad?
Well, I probably left it in my bag there. Um, all right, yeah, I'm not an expert on the drones, that's for sure. And I don't keep up with it as much as a lot of people do. I knew there were things over some military bases, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and I know about that one, and I'm not surprised that there's something happening in the UK, as well as a number of countries. Uh, I bet it, I bet it's been something that's been on the docket for humans to do for a while, and that the space aliens themselves have an interest in the same kind of promotion. Because then the government can. The bottom line to me is that whatever's causing the events instigated by governments and or intelligence services, the government behind the government, the secret government, uh, the beast, the G7, G10 is the way I see it, are largely the beast in the Revelation. Um, and there's other ways of looking at that, of course, but because they're poisonous mammals, a lot of them. I mean, that sounds stupid to say. I mean, poisonous mammals. What are you saying? They're all snakes? No, I'm not really saying they're all snakes because I'm not talking to any people in particular. But to the degree that they've gone against the next level, uh, and the record books that describe the kingdom of God, the kingdom in the heavens, uh, Jesus and his Father, and their teachings, and then rejected T and O uh, directly or indirectly, uh, that goes to each person to to have their time before the creators of this planet, and that I believe that uh, that T, according to Doe, is the chief administrator for the Earth system. Anyway, uh, so I'm not the judge, but all these things I believe are happening and are evidenced to be happening to some degree in the records, in the Revelation, and in the Jesus prophecies. And other people's prophecies probably include things too, as the other religions also have smatterings of the truth or even big doses of the truth according to their the type of experiments that the next level is doing, trying to bring up the evolution of the planet to where the idea of beings from outer space is a normal uh, way to think is true, and and that and that even though the religions have been made into mythology because of all the symbolism, naturally so, and previous mythological depictions of beings from other worlds, other planets, other solar systems. Well, maybe not solar systems, but like with the Greek mythology and the Roman mythology and the Babylonian mythology and the Egyptian mythology, and who knows what others. I'm not a theologian or in any regard, but I can see the generalities and I can see a lot of the commonality in the religions. But that's not what I want to talk about. I don't want to really talk about me. I want to talk about well, what Doe said about in the Beyond Human series, which I've talked about probably every broadcast, but I'm focusing more on it now because I believe this event that we're going to call the drone event, I don't know what else to call it, to where, I mean, drones have been being used for many years, and the governments had them for many years. They were terrorizing people in Iraq and Afghanistan with them, in Syria, I believe, and other places. And so we know that the technologies exist, and we know that also that humans have been trying to make spacecrafts because they did retrieve crashed spacecrafts that appeared to be crashed, or were given to them in their entirety, even by the space aliens, because the space aliens have an interest. They're people, and they're souls that know how to take over vehicles. So that's why they have vehicles on their spacecrafts. But anyway, so they know that the technologies exist for them to have zero gravity and but they need humans to build them and to look for the elements that are necessary to produce those effects and other effects and other technologies. And so the government, it's been talked about for a long time that the government was going to disclose this and disclose that. I'm talking about 30, 40, 50 years talking about this. And every president has weighed in. I remember since George W. Bush was asked questions on the campaign trail, will he release the UFO information and blah, blah, blah. And now it's like folklore to people. And it's like part of science fiction. Watching the Discovery Channel, it's like, oh, look at that stuff, and but then people have experiences, and all of a sudden things change. In other words, they see a light in the sky, they see this, they see that, and that's been happening for decades. I mean, probably for millennium. No, not probably. I think from the history books we know that it's been happening for millennia of time, and the artists' depictions of things in the sky, spacecrafts or a human inside of a comet, in certain 1500s dated artwork. Anyway, and they're called frescoes sometimes, and because the artists didn't want to put their name on it, so because they might be fearing prosecution by the church or something, and so they don't want to put anything sacrilegious in there. So that might be one of the reasons why some of these paintings still exist and can be seen is, well, I think is because the next level wants us to update our thinking to include uh, knowledge, knowing that the next level has technology. It's almost a laugh to say, considering the planet and the life forms on it, and the amount of technology in the planet and the life forms on it. It's like beyond belief that you could think of anything being more technological, and and we can't. We're not able to conceive of what is even more than we experience, unless the next level introduces us to things, and they do. And they do it in stages throughout the civilization. And when we got to the 1900s, or even the 1800s, 1700s, I don't know when they started in earnest, probably around the 1700s more, with a lot of writing that was taking place. I don't know about the 17s. I know in Europe there were science fiction writers back then. Maybe not that many, um, but I remember studying it a little bit. And the next level has been working with the planet, but uh, it's they do it in degrees and stages in order to, because they're actually, I know it's not heartless, but they're breeding human plants, and so that they can become vehicles, bodies that a soul can be deposited into and can develop even into becoming a member of the creator's team. And the creators, the best way that I believe we can understand who the creators are and what they're like is by getting to know Tiendo. They're the best examples that there are. And their crew, the ones that graduated. Uh, um, they're to me the best examples of members of uh, the creator's team, the chief of chiefs, if you want to look at it that way, which is not somebody we're going to be able to comprehend uh, anything really about, except those said that we would come to understand more of where the chief of chiefs came from once we became members of the next level, because our human brains aren't capable of understanding that. We're barely capable of understanding that the next level exists. Or that there's people on spacecrafts that can be as big as planets working inside of them or outside of them. I'm not saying what the case might be. And that they have drones as well. They have spacecrafts that they make that can go into areas that a vehicle, one of their suits of clothing that they wear, a living vehicle, can't go or would die if it went to. And I imagine like going into the sun environment might be an example of an environment that a next level member uh, wouldn't go into because their vehicle could be killed. And Tiendo said that their vehicles can die, but they don't. The soul doesn't die from when the vehicle dies, and so they go back to the lab to get a new vehicle if that happens by accident or some sort. Um, which is a whole nother subject that I'm not really capable of talking about too much. But you can hear the little parts of the thinking the more and more you listen to the audio tapes. There's over 1,000 of them. And we have, uh, well, not we have, but some people have access to um, uh, the tapes. And because I'm being sued, I can't even, give you any kind of ideas about how to get access to them. But if you try hard enough, I think the next level will help you know where to look or who to ask, besides me and Carlody and Kathy, since we're three being sued by, well, I don't need to get into that anymore right now because that's not what this is about. So I'll just leave it at that. If you have questions about it, you can ask me, and I'll say a little more about that. But so I put a post, well, it's a segment on the screen there. On the top left, it's a part from Revelation 19, and I mentioned it a number of times in different broadcasts that I believe this is what many Christians put the most use as the biggest identification of what they believe is the second coming of Jesus, and that many are looking for as we speak. And many are expecting to be raptured. And that's part of why I wanted to play this segment of, not play, I can't legally play it, those words directly. Maybe I can. Maybe as a result of this lawsuit, I'll be able to play segments, which I'd rather do because I'd rather have Doe say it in his words. But the next best thing is to have little segments of the transcript that was a common law copyright in the Heaven's Gate book. So, and since I'm not doing it for money, uh, I don't think any court would rule that I'm doing something wrong by somebody's copyright law and need to be fined or something. But that's what they're trying to do to me and Carlody and Kathy. Anyway, so so I guess since I started with that Revelation 19, well, before I do, I do want to say a little bit of something else that's been coming up since I'm talking about uh, the Jesus materials, the records from when Jesus was, when the older member soul from the next level was incarnate. Um, no, I'll go back into that later, talking about like Michael the Archangel, and because it's not that important. It's not. I don't think it's important at all, really. But it's a way to talk about uh, with people that are Christians that are talking about certain connections. And when I see them talking about certain things, I like to try to offer them additional ways of looking at it that they probably haven't thought about, because it's by drawing in the mind from Tiendo through the material that they left behind and everything they said over the years, that they were incarnate in the flesh, is what that all that means. Um, Offers you a lot of insights. Doe talked about a lot of things, and he didn't have to talk a lot about a lot of things because they weren't teaching out of the Bible, never were. But they knew what things were true. That they did include a little bit of talk about, very little, and that was that they were fulfilling the prophecy of the two witnesses, and don't really want to go past that right now, and that they were also the woman, and in Revelation 12, as Doe said, was T. It also says, in different parts in Revelation, that the one who was Jesus would identify who his father is. And it actually says that in the book of John as well, in the gospel record, that he will show us the Father when he came back. And so the Christians that are thinking that he's coming back by being in the clouds, as it's going to say, and I'm going to read this segment from those Beyond Human series that talks a little about this. It's not going to be next level Jesus. It would be a Jesus that's a counterfeit Jesus, a false Jesus, a false prophet, false Messiah, false whatever you want to call it. And there's been many. Like Jesus said, there was going to be many. And he said they wouldn't come in his name. If they come in his name, then that they're a counterfeit. So, like, you think about it, all these people that believe that Jesus is coming back have a big test in front of them. Not that we all don't. We all have tests in front of us. Okay? But I guess I feel like I have to try to reach out to people that have come through the Christian upbringing and study and belief, because as Doe said, they were the biggest group that were prepared for the return, and therefore they were also the most targeted by the lower forces, by the Luciferian, space alien, fallen angel souls. Sorry, I got an itchy nose. Does that mean my nose is growing? I'm not lying.
No, that was happening to me yesterday.
Yeah.
I took some homeopathic allergy stuff.
Yeah, maybe that's what that is.
It was getting on my nerves.
Yeah. But maybe there's an influence, a discarnate, that's trying to distract me. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'll try to ignore it. But so Doe speaks about that in that segment of the Beyond Human series in session 4. And I'm not going to say exactly where in session 4 because I think it's worth listening to the whole session. It's worth listening to the whole series. In fact, it's a must for anybody that is curious about T and Doe and crew. Um, all right, well, let me just move on from that. Well, to say that, uh, well, I'll just go through Revelation 19 a little bit just to put that behind us. But to me, it's an example of, well, I believe that Doe is coming back, but not in a teaching. It's not just a belief. It's what Doe said that he was. I got to find the spot so I can quote him exactly, and put that segment here on the screen and talk about it then better. But I wasn't prepared this time for that. But he knew that he was coming back with his crew in order to complete the harvest. And that's what he's talking about as the big surprise, is the beginning of the harvest time. Now, that could have been happening for a long time, many years, from even before they left. But it's happening, well, no, not probably before they left, but anytime after they left, I think, would be probably a more accurate way of saying it and thinking about it. Because as long as they were here, there was still um, the direct relationship that, um, depending on the person, what they were asking for at that time, and their own communication to whatever degree that they had with the next level. Um, uh, you know, uh, that's the first graduation class. That's like the first bus. Now I don't know how many buses that could be. Okay, it's not for us to decide. But the harvest is the harvest of all souls that the next level deems growing, significant, growing enough to where they they want to give that soul future opportunities. Maybe every soul gets that future opportunity. I kind of think that Tiendo did talk about that everybody that came would go back. And I don't think that just meant the graduate students, because we're not all ready to graduate at the same time. And so there's different degrees of um, to becoming a member of the next level. It's not easy. It's not like something like you go to church and you know you tell them, you go to the altar and you accept communion, and you know and everything that involves, or say that you want to be born again, and some preacher in the front of the stage says, okay, you're born again by the blood of Jesus, and your sins are forgiven you, and go and sin no more, kind of thing. And that can be something that somebody experiences and gets something from. But if that they remain in that state when more opportunities are presented to them to outgrow that degree of recognition of the next level, uh, if they keep on refusing to see more and more of the reality of the next level, and try to um, well, what their efforts are is a matter of we all have lots to learn. That's why we need these vehicles, to learn lessons. And nobody, I don't think, on the planet is well. I don't know what the next level is doing, on the planet. So they don't need lessons, not in the human kingdom, or any that do. The next level will see to it, as Doe said in Doe's final exit, that they'll come back, be brought back to the human kingdom, when it's time for them to learn certain lessons better. And but it wasn't required of them to make the leap of faith that they made, because it is a leap of faith, but faith isn't like evident of absent of mind. In fact, faith is the evidence of things unseen, and we can't see the mind, right? We can't see a soul. We can't normally see a discarnate and know what we're seeing, even if we do see something. Um, so, so, so our, but yet, some people, even many people, have a sense that there are things that we can't see that are what they were talked about in the history books as spirits or ghosts or however you want to say it. I'm not saying that everything reported is a discarnate or who knows what is possible in that etheric world, or the spirit world, or whatever you want to call it, but where thought forms exist, and the lower forces like the space aliens know how to manipulate same way that they know how to manipulate humans, and 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 that's the biggest reason. One of the biggest reasons why it's so hard to recognize Tian-Do for who they are is because uh, we have been genetically and in our current lifetime in a human flesh vehicle, uh, um, been bombarded with the misinformation combined with the next level's true information, but that the misinformation dominates in terms of volume, and the next level information dominates in terms of power and potential for a future outside of the human kingdom. Graduation to a new evolutionary strata of life that's physical and mental. As opposed to the spiritual strata on earth that some people believe is heaven on earth. Uh, as spoken of by well, I can't speak for everybody, of course. I can't speak for anybody, really, except for myself. But um, uh, it's easy to be tricked into thinking that we're doing the right thing or doing our best, or um, uh, and Kathy and I have been dealing with, what are the lessons from some of the experiences we've been having, uh, like like we were next to a car in a 2-lane road, and the person to our left in a big old truck, and we're in a small little sporty type car, and not a sports car, but a sedan, but and he just turns like he's going into our lane, and he hits us on the back door, puts a dent in the door and the rear fender. Okay, and the other day we were pulling into a new place to park our motorhome, and I didn't look and see that I hit this post that had the water on it for the site, for another site. I was trying to get into my site, our site, and Kathy had the signal of checking that side, normally I pretty much I need to rely on Kathy's guidance back in this rig, 37-foot rig into different places, and I watch her for her hand movements, left to right, blah blah blah. So neither of us saw that this post was there, and I had an opportunity to see it, but I just wasn't attentive enough. And that's a lesson. Anyway, we've been having a lot of things that are very challenging to deal with. Money problems, and trying to afford our bills, and be questioning what we're doing and whether we're in the right place because we're having such trouble with income. And anyway, I'm not trying to plead with people for anything right now, but it's not. This isn't an ad for donations to Kathy and Sawyer, or Sawyer and Kathy, whatever order you want to put us. But um, I think we all, I think many, shouldn't say all, but I think more and more people are being challenged more and more. And so let me get back to the subject of this, the drones. I didn't complete the other thought, though, about the Revelation 19. Well, I just think in summary that refers to those return for the end of the judgment period, so that which it talks about in that chapter as being separating the spirits from one group to another group. The ones that are set to be recycled from the ones that are set to be stored in some capacity, or kept in some kind of next level environment, and even potentially given elementary tasks in the next level, until they can finish the lesson plan, like we just observed happening. Not that it always entails leaving by one's own hand. That's not for us to determine how the next level determines when a student has done their best and demonstrated receiving their mind and becoming one of them. Because that's what it's about. It's not about, pleasing some person that sits on the clouds. It's about knowing that you can be trusted. That not that they can be trusted. They know they can be trusted because they don't have anything to gain from us, except the joy that they get from seeing new members of the next level and seeing people try to grow in that direction. They get joy from that too. And I know that's hard to imagine that that's, the ultimate purpose to all this, but why not? Why isn't that as good of an explanation overview as any other? Or better, a lot better in my mind, because it feels real. As opposed to some people that say that we were made to have fun, which fun is part of it. Yeah, we were made to have the facility of having fun. Nothing wrong with that. But the fun can be advanced. Like, don't compare it to like horses are having fun running in the field sometimes, right? And yet that might not be that much fun for humans. Some may still like to do that, right? And make it into a career even. But power to them. But it's not. Next level fun is more like, it's serving their older members. That's actually fun. It really is. I know because I've done it. But actual. I've serving the older members, but that didn't mean that I was getting out of that experience all that I could have got out of that experience. But then again, I'm not the judge of myself either. So I got what I got. Okay. And I know part of what I got was knowing that there's a lot more to get. So when we have lessons, when we do stupid things like I did by crashing into that water valve, and then it is right to think, well, how can I not do that again? And I think a lot of us do that, of course, naturally, because we don't want to make stupid mistakes over and over again. Um, and so you can get down on yourself, but you need to also move on. I mean, in order to not get into a depressed state and, thinking that, oh, it's a sign that I'm no good, or, going down some other road that would be worse than that little lament that takes place. It doesn't harm your vehicle. Of course, there's more and more serious things that can happen to us, like when our health is affected or when people get hurt. Anyway, I'm going to move on to. Let me go to the chat.
Nothing's going.
Sound good? Make sure everything's still working here. Merry Christmas from Finch Show. Thank you, Finch. Hi to Kathy and all Sawyer. And yeah, so I was having the feeling today, after Kathy and I watched a little YouTube thing that gave us a summary of the drone events that we knew about so far, that we'd heard most of it before or seen some of the pictures of. And that why couldn't it be part of what was said in as part of the big surprise, and actually stimulated by space aliens, actually doing things to defy the average physics that humans know about and can use, like accelerating at a tremendous rate that even these drones don't demonstrate, that I've heard about. Some of them may be able to, I don't know what kind of G-force they can sustain. And, if the drones, of course, they don't, it would just be the structure of the unit. The G-force would be affecting, right, or the function of it in some way. But there wouldn't be any life to be lost because of the G-forces. Like when I had the sighting in Corpus Christi, Texas in 1976 of an object that was big and bright and seemed to be close and over the Gulf of Mexico, and it did 2 right-angle turns at an incredible speed. When I told that to people that knew a lot more about physics than I did, they said that we don't have technology to do that with somebody inside of it because of the G-forces. And we've seen the movies about the G-forces of the astronauts and the fighter pilots. But but that doesn't mean that they can't be drones. And Tiendo did talk about how holograms are also a possibility that the space aliens know how to make. I know humans are getting better at it, like with the Michael Jackson concert that they did with him as a hologram, and I think some other people were doing that. I don't know how many people are doing that nowadays, but that shows you that they've come up with ways of doing it. And Tiendo felt like Our Lady of Fatima was a hologram, or more than one. On my, because I know there's been a lot of events of seeing things in paintings and statues, and seeing blood come out of the palm of the hand of a statue or things like that. That I think Tiendo would call tricks. That not necessarily tricks like humans do, but tricks that space aliens could do, maybe with holograms. That might, in order to capture people's minds to that religion or that thinking, so that they can not recognize something when it's real that's happening. It makes it harder to recognize, and in a sense, that seems like what happened with Paul on the road to Damascus to me. Um, uh, that that wasn't next level. That wasn't Jesus. And yet, Paul tells the story that that voice in his head, or that was audible, I don't know if it was or not, said, I am Jesus who you persecute. Why do you persecute me? And yet Jesus said that if anybody comes back in my name, there will be many coming back in my name. So maybe that was the first one. Don't believe them. Don't go with them. Don't follow them. And yet that event ended up capturing a large part of the Jesus teachings, because the Jesus teachings are more difficult to apply. Um, and and so the lower forces want to make it easy, so they make the religion into a country club religion, to where the book is all these words and it says this and this and this and this, and the people that accelerate in that country club learn to quote it and say this and that, and they're free to condemn people that don't listen to them, and um, and they think that they're working for God by doing that. And it might be true, but it's not going to be the legitimate God, the only true gods. It's going to be some kind of a facsimile or counterfeit God, which the space aliens are to humans. And and yet they know that they're having their reckoning soon. They don't know what the time frame is, I don't think, because I don't think anybody does. But they want to get off the planet. They want to genetically engineer new vehicles that they can take over and use on their crews. They want to capture souls, because souls don't. Souls have a. If the souls have grown, then they've got more next level mind in them. And I don't know what other benefit there are to souls as opposed to. I think souls can go places that human spirits can't, because one reason is that when you're a spirit, we just saw a movie that was kind of fun with Bill Murray in it. What was the name of that?
The Dead Don't Die.
The Dead Don't Die. And they depicted that these dead zombies were all gravitating to the areas where they like to be the most, and to do the things that they like to do the most. And so, I don't remember some of the examples, but
the kids with candy.
Oh, the kids with the candy store, getting candy, right? The zombies that were kids, or the people that like to play guitar. They would just like be walking around saying, "Oh, guitar, guitar," and they'd be dragging a guitar behind them or stuff like that, as they were going to try to terrorize and eat human flesh. So, but that thinking was exactly what T and Do were teaching, was the kind of magnetism, if you want to call it that, that deceased humans, spirits, have towards people and things and ideas and everything, beliefs, that they want to keep on doing that. So they won't hang around somebody that's not going to offer them that, that more of what they want. And so that was kind of cool to see that being depicted that way, and more directly than I ever seen it before. So let me get to this part from since there's nothing new in the chat room, which I'm.
Varsity Bookworm's there, and he asked you.
Oh, he is. Oh, there. What's your theory on the drone, Sawyer? Well, I think I was trying to express it. Maybe I haven't been here since the beginning of the stream. So, in synopsis, it can be a number of things. I'm not going to pretend to look at each circumstance and say, oh, that's a space alien, doing that, either as a drone or in their spacecraft, or I don't know for a fact that the next level won't do some things. And I know that humans use drones, and I know the space aliens can also do holograms, like Our Lady of Fatima, and like they did, a long time ago. And they can even make a Jesus appear in the sky, or the space aliens could actually come down with somebody that was dressed like in robes, and might show you the sores on his hands, and and with long hair, and saying, "I'm Jesus, and I'm bringing peace to the world," and and you know, and they can actually literally be taking souls of humans as we speak. According to when humans die from whether it's disease or whatever it is, uh, the space aliens can be harvesting those souls if the next level allows them to. Because the next level is going to make sure that they don't harvest any souls that have the potential to still grow and become members of the next level. And that's not related to, being a part of any kind of religious thinking, or you can be an atheist and the next level can find just as much favor with you, even more so maybe, because you've come out of the superstitiousness of religions, even though you can still have superstitiousness in thinking what's not possible. Like people that come to me all the time, sometimes almost every day, and say, there is nothing after death. There's no, this or no, there's no next level. There's no creators. It's just the earth and everything that's happening here. That's it. And, I know when they say that they don't know what they're talking about. Except that that's what they get. Because Doe talked about that. That we get what we believe before we die. And that belief isn't it's just like, saying the Pledge of Allegiance or something like that. Or saying I believe in Jesus from the kingdom of God. It's the next level has standards. I'm not saying that anybody's condemned to hell if they don't meet those standards, but the way the garden grows, like any farmer's garden, there's some plants that don't do as well as other plants, and they don't continue to produce fruit. And so the gardeners, they are functional. They enjoy function. They enjoy doing things, tasks like humans do. I think a lot of humans would hate to have nothing to do all the time, or they would generate things to do that they like to do, even if they had spare time. Didn't have to go to a job uh, to feed their faces and pay their bills. But and so the next level members, they thrive on doing things. But if somebody isn't building a mind that can work with other minds, because they've got jealousies or they've got envies or they've got superiority complex, or they think they know it, how to do something better. They don't think that they could be wrong about the way they think about this or that, and or then they're not going to work in the next level. They're not work. I mean, like perform, but they just, well, that's true. Also, they're not going to grow more from the beings that have been members of the next level for ad infinitum before they were. And nobody, like you can imagine in the human kingdom where you have somebody working in a company and they're supposed to do certain tasks, right? In order for you to do your task, and they don't do it. Well, the next level doesn't want that. They don't want people that they're gonna have to cover for them because they don't want to do certain tasks. Like people have things that in the jobs that they don't like to do and they don't like to do. And a lot of times, and with the next level, you're genuinely glad to do any tasks, and the next level won't limit you to just any tasks. And so there's always encouragement and challenges to reach up to and be a part of that occupy your time, that are things that have their own kind of lessons. But it's not lessons like in the human kingdom. So, but listening to the tapes of T and Do, there is a type of osmosis, if you want to call it that, that can happen to where you'll the more you do it, because it does take repetition. It doesn't mean that listening to the same tape over and over again, but the repetition of learning to recognize their minds and how they think to some degree, because it's not going to be exactly on par with where they're coming from exactly, because we're not capable. Their minds are bigger than ours. It's like, somebody that's been a scientist or somebody that's been a school teacher of history, okay, and they have a lot of information about history in their heads. And a new student to that isn't going to know what the other one knows. And it's a matter of that it's what we put our effort into. And to get into the next level, you got to show at least that, not at least, but you've got to be a sponge. You've got to want to change whatever it is that separates you from becoming a member of the next level, even though, there's all kinds of challenges with that. But, it's anyway, I'm going to move on with that. So my theory in the drones is, the same as everybody else probably. But I don't limit it to just humans and human governments, and the secret government might be behind a lot of it. The secret government being really the most manifest, I think, in terms of the intelligence agencies. But not everybody in the intelligence agencies, but, and I'm talking about also like in the military, Air Force intelligence, they've got naval intelligence. They have their own intelligence groups in each branch of the military. And so, and they do PSYOP. It's a PSYOP. It's a PSYOP by the space aliens, and it's a PSYOP by the in the human kingdom, the individuals in the human kingdom that are doing things. Because otherwise they wouldn't be seen if they were just looking for radiation or, you know, they wouldn't want to alert the public to this. But they want to stimulate this controversy at this time. And because, well, I think it was, I don't know if this is true or not, but for quite a while before the election, I I was thinking, why don't they just, you know, play out the election, and just let it go. Whatever happens, happens. They can't they work with Trump? I mean, he's not doesn't show himself to be nearly the dictator kind of person that he's made out to be. We don't see any evidence of that. Anyway, but so why can't they work with him? They uh, and uh, and I kind of think that they're doing that to some degree, but at the same time, they know. I also thought at the time that they're going to still be able, even if Trump's president, they're still going to be able to do all kinds of things that they want to do. Because there's so many things that are in motion already, with the funding for and everything. So that you don't even necessarily know where the funding for this goes and where the funding for that goes, and if Trump's going to try to get an accounting of all that, he's going to have so many things on his hands that are going to, it's going to be crazy. I was also talking about that sometimes before the election, even though I thought that they were going to try harder to challenge the results. I was wrong about that. It seems to be. I know there are people challenging the results now, but I don't know if they're going to get any traction before January 20th or January 6th, when it's got to be um, verified through the Senate, the electoral vote system. Anyway, so I guess I've been expecting, as we've seen with Gritch and other people that were in these congressional hearings talking about UAPs, and it's all been, I've been following this information for like 40 years in some shape or form since no, it's not 40 years, since the 90s or the late 80s, when Doe really introduced us to the whole space alien subject, by getting us books to read and going to seminars and things that some of the class went to, and doing filming and things. Anyway, but so that my education starts from there, and especially seeing the things that T and Doe talked about, or Doe talked about for the most part, more than while T was in her vehicle. But what did T and Doe have to say about social movements in the context of an Earth about to be recycled is trying to improve society worthwhile? Well, yes, improving society was always on T and Doe's mind. The audio tapes show that. I don't know if there's one spot, you know, I recommend you getting at least the uh, the um, the table of contents of the tapes, uh, and you know you can look at the titles of all those things, and you can get some clues that would answer some of these questions in their words. And yes, they talked about that the next level was engaged in improving the society. In fact, one example was that with health and with equality and with uh, getting rid of color consciousness in terms of racial colors, and and getting rid of gender inequalities, and not having any sexual bias, not having any sexuality at all. You know, they're the ones that started all that. In the mid 1800s, you see a lot of the evidence of that happening, and and that's because the next level was bringing it about. Even the bringing about of the United States as a melting pot that was, you know, protected from the other 2/3 of the world in a lot of ways, uh, was the next level's plan. The New Jerusalem was the Western United States. Even even as a spacecraft hovering above it in some way. I'm not saying there is. I don't know if there is. But it doesn't matter if it's literally hovering above us. They have spacecrafts that are laboratories for everything that's happening on the planet and the life forms on it. And they have crews associated with all different characteristics that are happening. And like getting rid of more health consciousness is where it started. You know, the Health Seekers Yearbook started in, I think, Arkansas in mid 1800s. Because when I was in the classroom with Doe, he got one because he was listening to Dr. Arnold Murray, who was who had a satellite channel and talked about such things. And he was based, I think, in Arkansas. I might have some of that a little bit wrong, but it's close to that. But and you can hear in the tapes where they talk about Arnold Murray a little bit. It's not a lot. That Doe learned from some of the things that he said, and anyway, yeah, so like seeing nicotine use or tobacco use as stimulating various diseases is was part of the next level's presence, because they were trying to clean up their act as much as possible so the vehicles could be as healthy as possible for as long as they were needed to complete their task of conquering their humanness, their mammalian humanness, and becoming a member of the next level, a new graduate. And so that's the reason why they wanted to be healthy. They didn't want to be healthy because they wanted to attract the attention of a mate, or you know, the way that you know we do. Which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's just not what was on the next level agenda to do, because they weren't looking for human relationships. Anyway, so that's yeah, improving society. I know they didn't think that the way that violent people were handled was the next level way, and that there's a way of handling violent people that isn't like killing them, like executing them or locking them away. Uh, so I don't know what those things are though. But humans can pick up on these things. So there can be all kinds of things happening in society that are that were stimulated by the next level. It's the way it works. Even though even though humans don't know it's being stimulated by the next level. Um, but but the next level can also decide that that the civilization is no longer actually growing in a worthwhile way, and the souls in it, spirits in it, would have a far better chance of starting with a new civilization because of how uh, distorted and confused and intoxicated and um, we can find ourselves, and other ways of describing the human kingdom. I'm not, I know I'm intoxicated by different things. I don't drink alcohol, and Kathy doesn't anymore either. But I like certain things. I use to help me have a different headspace at times. But anyway, it's not like we're not in that same classroom now, and we can want to clean up our acts, and that's fine. But uh, it would be good. It serves its purpose, especially to have dry spells. Where you're not using some things as much, whatever, taking breaks, and a lot of times they're stimulated by health. You know, you don't want to do certain things because of the side effects. But it's like everything in the human kingdom is opportunity, and we can get hooked on all kinds of things. Even hooked on religion, of course, is a big addiction to the sense of being elevated, to the sense of being important in God's eyes, even though we might not be important in God's eyes because we don't ever do anything to attract God's attention. We don't ever ask for God to, what they would have us do in this circumstance or that, unless we're about, we got hit by a tornado and we're dying and we think, well, God, can you help me at the last minute, And then, like Tiendo talked about this, that, and Jesus talked about it too. Your heart wasn't with me your whole life, and now you want me to help you? And who knows? The next level might still help that person. But it might be better off by not getting that help, and that spirit maybe having some help by being in a new vehicle. Maybe that vehicle had too much difficulty. And but the next level knows how to make it fair. But it's fair for the spirit and the soul. It's not necessarily fair from a biological standpoint. But the biology can well, I mean, there's a certain amount of healing that can take place, and there's a certain amount of, unless the vehicle's been so damaged that healing isn't really possible. It really isn't feasible for that vehicle. Then it's better off for the next level to take that spirit out of that vehicle, let the vehicle go, and then give that spirit another opportunity to be in the human kingdom to get some more lessons. I don't know. I've said that 10 times, but I'm sorry if it's. Um,
There's another question.
what did T and O say about Christmas? I don't remember them ever discussing it at all in any tapes or documentaries. Hope all is well, Sawyer. And that's from Ken. Um, as far as I know, there were at least three celebrations of Christmas during the 19 years I was part of the group. And one of those was, I believe, in 1996, that was filmed and was put on a few different, I think it was on the Cult of Cults somewhat, and I think it was on another, the Heaven's Gate podcast has the audio of them singing. I think that was part of a little Christmas thing that they did. They might have even shown a tree at some point. But what do they say about Christmas? I don't really remember them saying much about Christmas. I mean, it wasn't celebrated for the first 9 years or so, the way I remember it. We didn't do anything during those 9 years to do with Christmas. And then just so happened to be, I don't know if it just so happened to be or it was part of the next level's plan, to celebrate the December before T left her vehicle in June of the next year. And 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 then I believe those celebrated Christmas the December after T left her vehicle in 1985.
What about the time you were all given $50 to spend?
Right, that was the first time we celebrated Christmas, and T was, I think, in her vehicle that time.
Yeah, that
right?
was.
Do you remember that from the tapes?
Yeah, I think that was. You'd have to search the tape log. It was leading up to Christmas. So they do talk about, when you guys were shopping for.
Right, because I got some lessons when they gave us a certain amount of money. Was it $50 each?
I can't remember. I could be wrong. Maybe it was more, but it was.
I don't think it was more than that.
Okay.
And our instruction was to buy something for the craft, so we weren't buying something for ourselves or each other even, because we didn't have that kind of relationship that you were, buying something for a fellow crew member. You could have liked that person fine, but you didn't show it by that. That was the instruction we had, and so we went shopping, and they intended that we spend all the money they gave us each, and plan it a little bit, but they didn't give us a lot of time for it, so it wasn't like flunking a test. Well, depending on what you did, some people I think chose not to spend some portion of it because they think they already got something that was good for the craft to use. Like, a new kitchen device or something like that was like the kind of thing that you would buy. Now, we did have a tree. It wasn't a real tree, I don't think. And we put tinsel on it, the way I remember it. That silver tinsel, and quite a bit. And but we didn't have any bulbs. I don't know that we had lights. Oh, we did have lights in the tree, I think. That's right. If I remember correctly, I can get mixed up with things, with this subject because it's been so long ago. And if I didn't visit it in talking like on these streams very often, then it kind of becomes a foggy memory.
There's also in either, I don't know, Planet Earth About to Be Recycled or one of those where Doe mentions that it's Christmas
Hmm.
and everyone in the class was in one place for the most part.
Oh, that's
Remember that one?
yeah,
Remember
I
that?
think so. Well, that was done in 1995, I believe.
Yeah, I'm
No,
just
or
saying.
six. That was six.
Yeah, so that's somewhere that you can. I mean, it's not much, but
Right. Right. So you can listen to Planet About to Be Recycled,
I can't remember which one.
or maybe Last Chance to Evacuate Earth
Right,
before recycling.
it's where he's in front of the. Oh, I can't remember.
Or the other one would be Doe's Final Exit, which I don't think
I don't
that
think.
was it.
Yeah, I don't think it's Doe's final
Because
exit.
that was done in 1997.
Yeah, that was done in March, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Shortly, right
Yeah, really, really close to their exit.
graduation.
And let's see, another thing that happened on that first Christmas celebration was um, we had like a kind of a smorgasbord kind of dinner. And before that actually happened, T and Doe came back with nice crystal goblets and china that was gold leaf. It had the gold leaf on the corner edge of it and all around the edge, and like the a design on the plate. And let's see what else we did during that. Oh, I think I don't know if it was the first one or the one after T left that Doe felt to try to have a little bit of wine. And so I think we each had like probably less than an ounce, like a half an ounce each. And Doe was asked about from somebody, I think, one of the class members, uh, whether they were in the right to not have it, not have the wine, because I think he did say it was optional. So they had the right to not have the wine. But when Doe answered that question, he said that if my older member had put wine on the menu, I would have at least tried it, a little sip of it, and because it was optional, I wouldn't have had to, have any more because he wasn't making it optional as a test. Although everything that happened in the class ended up being a test to some degree, most everything. So let's see if there's anything else. I don't, you know, I can't. I don't know if there's much to say more about Christmas. Whether it was the day that, uh, you know, the vehicle that became named Jesus uh, was born or not, uh, that wasn't important. It might have been. It might have been around the solstice time or the equinox time, right? No, that would be the solstice time, which they always felt was a more significant time of each month when they would stimulate things to happen in the human kingdom. And the equinoxes also represented times where bigger things happened, more next steps, and they left during the fall of the spring equinox. Let's see. let's see if there's anything else about Christmas. I still want to get to the Beyond Human, and then I'm probably going to close the stream. Because this also talks to the drones, Varsity Bookworm, if you're still hanging in here. So let me bring that up in a way that I can read it better. So my writing there on the screen says, so here is a segment from Doe and Crew's Beyond Human video series, He, They Made in 1992. Session 4 is 12 sessions long. That talks about the 3 ages and the big surprise, when it was possible that humans might become aware of thousands of crafts coming in shifts at different times from Lucifer's corporation.
Sorry.
That's all right. That sounds good.
I have 15 minutes left.
Oh, right. In other words, thousands of crafts coming in ships at different times from Lucifer's corporation, who were taking souls, and all we might be aware of on Earth is seeing people dying in droves, and how some could be tricked to thinking a person fitting the artist's conception of Jesus was here to bring peace. Tiendo also talked about the space alien constructed hologram known as Our Lady of Fatima. So here is the excerpt from the Beyond Human series. This is Doe talking. What do we mean, a big surprise? Well, when all that's out there, Kingdom of God and space aliens, comes into harvest, the big question will be, how much of that will be witnessed? How much of that will take place without those who are running around on the planet seeing or knowing that it will take place? For example, the possibility arises that some could come and take souls by the droves, and all we would know is vehicles are dying by the droves, because souls weren't occupying them any longer. We could call it a plague or a disease, or we don't know. And he said at the time that it certainly was not suggesting, because of the AIDS thing, that that's what's happening to AIDS victims. Far from it. So that's another subject. However, I'm going to skip to the next. But that's one way that harvesting could take place that we would not be able to observe. My next page. But it's altogether possible that our Father's kingdom, as well as those in Lucy's corporation, can come in at the end of the age, in mass. So let me say that again. But it's altogether possible that our Father's kingdom, as well as those in Lucy's corporation, can come in at the end of the age, in mass, and do their taking of those who they want, though they might likely come in at different times. Now here's a real delicate subject I hate to discuss, but I'm afraid that our Father's kingdom is not going to come in. Boy, I can hear Lucy shouting at me before I ever get these words out of my mouth. I'm sorry, Lucy, I said. I hear Satan shouting at me. I'm going to add a little bit of context to that. Is that he used the word Lucy, but then he felt like when he examined it, that wasn't right, especially with anybody that had the name Lucy. He didn't want those people to feel bad, like he was talking to them as being the same individual that was known as Lucifer. So he started to use the word, I hear Satan shouting at me, where Satan actually is the same thing. It's referring to, it actually means in the the Greek, I think maybe the Hebrew, the same thing. It means adversary, and that's what the space aliens are to members of the next level. They're adversarial. They're against them, and that's what they do. They come into our minds with their thoughts, shouting, like letting you know that they don't like what you're saying or what you're thinking, and that can be, a big influence on people. And you can even see that some of the people that said that some demon made them do some horrible thing may have been realistically actually responding to some demon that took them over. And then they get into prison and they don't know, they become, a born again Christian or whatever, which may be good and maybe not. It depends on where they go from that. But anyway, then he says in the Beyond Human series that I'm reading from session 4, I'm afraid our Father's kingdom is not going to come in and have someone looking like the common picture of Jesus floating down to the planet in flowing garb, showing scars, and saying, I, Jesus, have come to give you peace, and peace for the world. I'm afraid our Father's kingdom desires no peace for the human kingdom. In our Father's kingdom can be found peace. So that's hard to take, considering the way that the New Age Christians and Christians think that the Lord wants there to be peace. At the same time, the Lord does want us to act peacefully towards one another. They don't believe in war. They don't believe in killing each other. They don't believe in even making weapons to kill humans with. So that shows how far afield many people are to believe in and trust in those people that are going against the next level's behaviors and ways like that. And so you can see where the distraction comes in from that point of view through the Jesus materials, because he talked about the same thing. Separating from the human kingdom was the objective of a member aspiring to become a member of the kingdom of heaven, kingdom of God. And that means separating from all our mammalian behaviors and ways. And that's part of that's part of what's required when you're going to be in the graduate class. And you can see that in Junodi's document, talked about as the formula. And so it applies to whoever it applies to. But now, that document is called Away Team from Deep Space Services Before Departure. Junodi was given the task to write that. And it's filled with Doe's mind and T's mind. But Doe's task was it included talking about what was going to happen after they left, and that's where he took advantage. He employed, in a sense, gave the task to Junodi to write that document, and there's others that give other ideas too. But I mean, so the human kingdom was. Well, let me see. No, I'll read the next thing from the Beyond Human series. Like we've discussed before, if you caught it, the human kingdom was not even designed to work. even though the human kingdom could have become the kingdom of our Father had those who were created in the human kingdom made all the options to do only His will, instead of listening to those who were influencing them to do otherwise. There's a little bit more, 3 more paragraphs, because it goes back to talking about the big surprise. The reason I brought that up is because a moment ago, when I said that the big surprise could come, that spacecrafts could come in by the thousands, maybe come in shifts. One shift of spacecrafts could come in from one part of the heavens, bringing with them that one who came down with scars and flowing hair and flowing robes, saying, "Peace on earth. We're going to solve all the problems of this world." Don't get me wrong, it wouldn't be Jesus. It would not be Jesus. It would not be a representative from our Father's kingdom. Now, those who had bought into that, and that's what they believed with all of their heart, I'm afraid they're prime targets to believe him, the counterfeit, and to move into that condition. And it might even be harder to get out of that misinformation corporation after having left a human garden than it was at the human garden, if an opportunity to get out does come to them later, after having moved into the corporation outside of the human condition. Don't forget that even the corporation at its highest peak, that corporation even at its highest peak, is still in the human condition and made up of the misinformation of the opposition. But the only way any space alien could get into our Father's kingdom is to come back into a human civilization, for it is designed to be where overcoming must take place, where the change of swapping misinformation for the truth, the facts, must take place. If, as our Father sees them and reads them on his meter, he says, "There's enough goodness in there, I want to give them a gift and let them migrate towards a source of that truth," then that overcoming would have to happen here in a human civilization. So, what I'm saying about the drone experience is that it seems to be like a sign of the beginning of the harvesting of souls to one camp or the other. One camp meaning one corporation to the other. The Luciferian corporation or the Next Level corporation. That's the 2 choices. And the pathway into Next Level corporation is to seek growth and service from dough. That's what I believe. That's my understanding of it. And service to the other corporation is not that you can't grow in the other corporation, and you don't get chances in the other corporation, but they're dead ends in terms of the possibility of becoming a member of the Next Level. And unless they get out of it, like Doe said, unless they're brought back to a civilization that's equivalent to human, where they can have the lesson experience again. I'll go back to the chat. Right, Mr. Saw Killer expressed to Ken about the Christmas celebration that they celebrated Christmas in 1996. So, yes, and that's where they sang the song Doe Deer, from The Sound of Music with their own words. And I put that on a post of that on my page, my YouTube channel. I'm not sure how to search for it. Uh, Maybe song or it's not that opening of my channel musical thing that I do. Okay, so I think I'm starting to get tired. So if there's nothing else on anybody's mind and that you want to express in the chat room, I think I'm gonna close the stream. Uh, I don't have I don't have any revelations of my own. I mean, sure, I have thoughts about a lot of things, but to me, what's most important is trying to convey um, what T&O taught and the crew members that graduated also, because they wrote things that were included in the Heaven's Gate book, which is good to see because it gives us evidence that they weren't like blind followers or that or naive because they were expressing things in their own ways, but it was the same information. But they learned, uh, well, as I did. I guess it's like when the next level sees an individual at any time now, or while my vehicle was roaming around Oregon in 1975, when they see an individual that's seeking, that wants to know more, that in whatever ways that they demonstrate that, even if it's, well, I don't know what the limits would be on, when the next level doesn't consider it seeking the truth about something. Because, we cannot have the actual questions in our heads, but we could just have a sense of wanting to learn things, wanting to explore, wanting to read, and, have different experiences and find out what other people are experiencing. And I think that's all considered to be under the category of seeking. Um, I mean, not necessarily. I guess it depends on the person, of course, and what they're doing. If they're studying a mathematical book, I don't think that's still a seeking, of course, but I don't think it's the kind of seeking that the next level is looking for. Because they don't need mathematicians in the next level. They've got plenty of really, really good mathematicians if they use when they use math for things. The reason we have math is because the next level provided us with the ideas and the stimulus of the thoughts. Otherwise, we'd be still in a more primitive state, but we'd also be thinking of the next level in a primitive way as well, in a superstitious way, or that it was magic. Oh, there was one more thing on the drones that I wasn't sure that I talked about. So let me just go there briefly, which was, well, I did go there, I'm pretty sure, where I talked about the scorpions, the locusts, and the smoke. Let me go there again, though, so it's all in one spot. And it's Revelation 9. Okay, I don't know how long it's going to take, but it talks about these locusts that are that have the laid down further in the chapter. It describes them as having human faces, and that they have a stinger, and they have power, like the scorpions on the earth have power. And we know the scorpions on the earth have power to sting somebody, and potentially they could even die from that. And so these locusts have power, but when you're talking about the death of in the Book of Revelation, it's associated with what death means to the next level and what life means to the next level. So the scorpions of the earth are therefore those individuals that uh, have the power by their persuasion or by their manipulation or by their uh, um, uh, solicitation, or whatever it is, by willing to pay somebody a lot of money for something, have the power to turn somebody's eyes uh, to where they could be further and further away from um, looking outside of themselves and outside the planet for help with problems and things. Because as soon as you are doing, you don't have so many cares because, finance, everything's in order, so to speak. That's the beginning of uh, the lessons of getting out of that. So that that's not, so that you, which, when things are removed from us that we've had, and we suffer from that, then we could either try to rebuild, or rebuild up our company again, or whatever it is, a reputation again, or we can think that maybe there's something more to do. And there's a lesson to be learned from this. And this is something that Kathy and I have also been going through in the San Antonio area, where we're not making much money and having to stress over our bills and have to work a lot, and yet we're not working that much sometimes. And
we are working. It's Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense to go out to work to make $30 in 8 hours because
Right.
it's gonna, like,
Right.
you have to, work smarter.
Yeah. Right. And but it makes us think, maybe there's someplace else. I was talking about this before, that we should go to, but whenever we examine it, we don't really feel like we have those options.
Yeah, we don't have money to go anywhere.
Right. Because, you got to pay for your food. You got to pay for the car insurance. You got to, got all these bills. And anyway, so Donated Pizza says, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Sawyer. Take care of yourself. Thank you. And so anyway, this verse in 9, I mean, this could be considered to be drones. This could also be considered to be space alien souls, with their spacecrafts. And this could also be considered to be military kinds of things. the way that humans use drones in their wars now, more than people on the ground, even though they're doing the people on the ground as well. Uh, I've seen it reported that there's actually a war declared on Yemen by the United States right now, and that they sent like maybe it was a troop rotation or some sort, but there were like 2,000 troops.
That was Syria.
That was Syria, right? The Yemen was the response to the ships, a ship that was, or a fighter jet that was shot down.
We shot our own fighter jet.
But although they said that it was friendly fire that shot it down, and that the pilots escaped, I guess, by bailing out, I guess. Mm-hmm. And yeah, but anyway, someone else was talking about that there's a war in Yemen with the Houthis. What? I don't know. But yeah, but right, the fact that there's a war in Syria now, and Israel and the United States and who knows who else are carving it up. It seems like, by sending troops there and taking over the ports and the oil wells and things. And so, this planet is not being the goodness is vaporizing. Whatever goodness is in people, it's being challenged. And the next level decides who doesn't want to be a part of it. That's why it talks about how those that are in league with the beast, receive their identity or their belief and their trust in, governments. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with government, but there are plenty of things wrong with government. Let me put it that way. But there are some, decent government programs, but that's because the next level was here. And in my opinion. Right, like it talks about that these locusts have shapes like horses prepared into battle. And their heads were, as it were, crowns like gold. And their faces as the faces of men. So that could be, it talks more. It seems more like those are the space aliens, and that humans were also working on their behalf, whether they know it or not, because those said that about many Christians that they don't realize that T and Do were the two witnesses that were sent to come back and talk to people with new information and updates and and so it's a difficulty for people to to change their minds, to be open. All right. But I was thinking that the smoke of the locusts, to me, upon the earth, is like the way you think about how somebody can't see through it. In other words, we can't understand certain things. We get confused by it. It chokes us. It, it and you can even look at that as like a smoke screen. Like when someone puts up a smoke screen when they do some kind of crime and they try to pin it on somebody else, or build, like what they did with the whole UFO crashes. They put up a smoke screen and said it was a weather balloon. And that information, Tiendo wanted to see come out. And it has come out, but I don't know what degree they want to see it come out. Whether they want it to be something that people hear, even if they're not really looking for that information. Because it does, when you see the people talking about, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. Some people are freaking out because they're afraid of what it might be. They don't want to think about it as space aliens. And so if the human government can tell humans that this is what it is, they'll just settle on that. They'll enjoy hearing that instead of being faced with. But the next level wants people to be faced with the truth. So the space alien presence, I think, is part of that truth. But the next level isn't callous about it. So they're trying to do it in a gradual way. And it takes time for that to happen. And stages, like Doe said, it's something that's, different times when things happen. Coming in shifts was the other way he described it. Between next level and between the space aliens. And I know whenever I say space aliens, I can hear that Luciferian idea that that's stupid talk, that's silly, that's not true, that's not real. Well, I guess time will tell for each of us. So, I'm not saying anybody in the stream is thinking that way, but it doesn't matter because people do. And they express it to me sometimes. I'm not really caring about that. Because I'm tired and I'm rambling, so I'm going to move on. So have a Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, and a Happy New Year if you, and have a Happy Hanukkah if that's what your celebration is. Those things, I mean, they are. Doe did talk about that they are commemorating the birth of a member of the next level incarnate into the human environment. That is a big deal to the human kingdom. Even though it's been distorted, even if it's been paganized, if you want to put it in those terms, which I don't think of that automatically as something bad, but some Christians will say that's bad. Representations, the statues and everything is the pagan way, right? You build statues that, well, the next level in the Old Testament, Moses wasn't in favor of that. Building graven images as opposed to having, seeing the value of somebody's mind, of a human's mind. That, like, recognizing that Moses was somebody that had next level information, and whatever the terminology was in those days. By showing them things that were, they had to be proven that to some degree, those vehicles. Where then that if the person receives it and identifies with Moses while they're there, then that gets passed on to future generations as something that they know is real, even though the manifestations of it in the current time aren't real. So good night, folks. What?
Did you know what's going on?
Have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year was the last thing in the chat room. Let's see, maybe we're not even broadcasting anymore. Nope, 2 hours. Gosh, my screen. It's not hiding anymore. I'm not hiding anything. But you can't see Kathy sitting next to me. There it is. So there's certainly going to be a lot of things happening, and it can become very confusing. And so if there's anything I can do to help with that, I'm glad to try. But the best place that you can go is directly to T and Do's information and listen to it over and over again. Watch it. They have so much that listening over and over again is not going to, you wouldn't have to repeat much. I mean, I know I could still listen to the Beyond Human series and get things out of it. So it's because T and Do had an uncanny demonstrated ability to cut to the chase, get right to the truth. Even if they talk about it like Do does in this Beyond Human series, he talks about the possibility of this and the possibility of that. He wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't even highly possible, in my opinion. But he's not trying to impress us with how possible something is. And he knows that when he's in the human vehicle, he's got more of a restriction. Not a restriction, more of a program to stay with. That his older member, T, is the chief administrator of. And so he doesn't want to say things that are vague or just off the cuff theorizing about things. I mean, he did some of that in the classroom a little bit, just like running thoughts by students after T left her vehicle. And you can hear that in tapes. And he would learn by expressing things, and he would learn by hearing what students had to say when he frequently asked for questions and things, which happened in almost every meeting. All right, so good night, folks. I'll just take one more look at the chat room, and then I'll be off. Until next year. No, maybe before that. Good night.